Okay, so for this video, we're going to be learning about filtration. So filtration is one of the ways to separate different types of matter. And filtration is based on the property of size. How big are the particles, right? So we can see that I have a mixture here of water molecules and a bunch of just rocks and pebbles and stuff. So I could pick all these rocks out by hand, but I want to be efficient with my time. And so I want to do something that's a lot faster than that. And so if I use something like this, that has holes in it that are big enough for one of the things to go through, but small enough for the other one to not, I can very quickly separate these things, right? And so you've probably done this before, right? You've probably made some pasta and strained it, or maybe you've made coffee and filtered it through a coffee filter. But the principle for all these filters works very much the same. As I go through, the water molecules can go straight through the filter, but as the rocks start to come out, they can't, right? So you can see I've just separated my mixture. Super easy, right? It took me 2 seconds. Whereas if I would have picked all these rocks out by hand, it would have taken me a couple minutes. So filtration is a really simple and easy way to filter things. And how does it work at a particle level, right? Let's go over here and look at our particle diagram. And so we can see here on our particle diagram, I'm looking at this one. This is basically like, for example, our filter, right? So the blue would be like our water molecules. Those are small. They go through the filter. And then like these bigger particles, they get blocked by the holes. The holes are too small for them, and so they stay on this side. And so over time, all of these blues will come to this side, and all of our like blue, greens and yellows will stay over here. And so we'll have separated them. And again, this is all based on the size of the particle. Now, there's a really neat trick with filtration, right? If we see this here, here's another example. We have water and sand, right? There's stuff called filter paper that we can put into funnels, and then this is another way to separate things out, right? So again, the water will drip through, the solid sand will stay on top, right? And so you'll end up with all your sand here and all your water here. Now, one of the cool things about filtration is that some things that are bigger than water can actually be made smaller than water. So I'm actually going to grab some calcium chloride, right? And so let's take a look at this here. Let me get my camera set up. So notice calcium chloride here. It's CaCl2. Notice that it's described as soluble in water, right? So things like sand, for example, will not dissolve in water. CaCl2 will. So if I take some, let's open my camera here. Okay, so if I take some of this stuff, okay, I'm just going to take a little bit. I'm just going to take a little bit of this, okay? And I notice here, right, this powder. This is my filter paper, for example. If I put this white powder on this filter paper, nothing happens. These little powder particles are bigger than the holes in my filter paper. But there is a nice little trick, and what I can do is this. I can take my calcium chloride, and I'm going to put it in this cup. And when I put it in this cup, one of the nice things, let's say there was some other stuff in this calcium chloride, maybe some, here I'll put some glass beads in there as well. So glass is not soluble in water. So now I have a problem. I have a mixture, right, of my glass and my calcium chloride, and it's going to be hard to get all that calcium chloride off of there. Well, what I can do is I can take a little bit of water, and I don't want to use a ton of water. I just want enough water to dissolve that calcium chloride, right? So I'm just going to use a tiny little bit, okay? And now if you look in there, all the powder is gone. So it's actually dissolved into the water. So now this calcium chloride is really, really, really small. It's actually so small that it will fit through our filter paper now. So once you have this set up, right, just like this, again, an important part of this is going to save you a lot of time in your setup if you do this correctly, is you want to start by using a very small amount of water. Once you do, you're going to take some filter paper. And this is another tricky part, so make sure you're watching this as well. Is this filter papers come in these circles, right? And our funnels kind of look like this. So I'm going to use a flask, and I'm going to put my funnel in there. So not bad. So I've got my funnel in there. So the thing is I need to get this filter paper to fit into that funnel. And so what I need to do is I'm going to take my filter paper, I'm going to fold it in half once. Okay, so it's kind of a half circle. So step one, fold it into a half circle. Step two, I'm going to fold it in half again until it's kind of this triangle circle thing. I would recommend if you're writing these steps down, which you should be because you're going to have to do this probably, is maybe draw this. So the step one, so let's go back, filter paper, step one, fold in half, maybe it looks like that, draw that. Step two, fold it in half again, and it's going to look like that. Maybe draw that. So pause the video and use that for your notes. Once you're done, you're going to take one of those sides and you're going to fold your paper over, like that, a little bit more than that, okay, until it fits into your funnel, okay? So if you look here, it fits into the funnel now, okay? And so once we get that, it is a little dry, and so what we want to do is we want to take our distilled water. You always want to use distilled water when you're dissolving this, so that's this little water bottle here, and we're just going to give it just a little bit of, remember, we just want a tiny bit of water, right? Just a little bit. And then as we do this, what we'll notice is our paper now sticks to the side. So it's all stuck to our funnel now, okay? So this looks really good. And then what we can do is, again, we have our calcium chloride. It's dissolved, sorry, this one right here, dissolved in the water. The glass beads won't fit through the filter, but the water and the dissolved calcium chloride will, okay? And then you can notice that the water's dripping through, and the glass, of course, will stay on the top there. Now, one thing we want to do, if we want to try and get as much of our calcium chloride back as we started with, is we want to go ahead and do one more little squirt of water. That'll just kind of get any last little bit of calcium chloride, and then we can stick it in there, okay? And then we're going to let this drip through. And then if you want to get good results, which you all should, right? One of the things you're going to notice is this water will drip all the way through, and you'll end up having the glass beads there. Now here's the thing, they'll still be wet, and some of our calcium chloride, our CaCl2, is still going to be on them. So what we can do is we can take our little water bottle and we'll give them what's called a wash. So I'll just kind of spray them like this, okay, and it'll get them a little bit more wet with more fresh distilled water, and that'll push through some of the CaCl through to the bottom. So you want to let all the water drip out and then give it a little rinse, a little wash like I just did. Let all the water drip out, give it another little rinse or a wash. You want to do that at least 2 or 3 times to get all of your CaCl2. That way when all your CaCl2 is in here, you can get a good result, okay? So make sure as it dries out like that, that you come in and just give it a little rinse, okay? Make sure you give it at least 2, if not 3 rinses. Again, trying to use the least amount of water possible because you are gonna use this, the more water you use here, the longer it's gonna be later, okay? So make sure you understand all those important steps there if you wanna take the least amount of time and get the most amount of results, okay? So again, just check. Anything that dissolves in water can use this method. Anything that doesn't can't. So for example, sand there at the bottom is not going to do it. Sand would stay on the top, kind of like our glass would, right? You don't want to use iron powder because it's half of it will dissolve in it and half won't. So everything's going to be contaminated. So only do it with things that are fully soluble and fully insoluble, okay? So sand, CaCl2, things like that, okay?